Welcome to Team 12's presentation on the Delta Airlines CrowdStrike outage, a major crisis that struck global aviation in July 2024.
It all started with a faulty update to the CrowdStrike Falcon sensor. This update triggered widespread crashes on Windows endpoints, causing systems to enter boot loops and display blue screens of death. The impact was immediate and severe. Critical airline IT functions, check-in systems, crew scheduling, and dispatch were disrupted. Without these systems, normal operations came to a standstill. At airports, the scene was chaotic. Automated check-in kiosks went dark, and agents had to revert to manual processes. Boarding passes were handwritten. Luggage tags were filled out manually, and every step took significantly longer. Lines stretched across terminals. Passengers were confused and frustrated, and staff were overwhelmed, trying to keep things moving. Communication systems were down, so even coordinating crews and flights became a logistical nightmare. Globally, aviation operations were affected, with widespread delays and cancellations. Delta Airlines was hit the hardest, with more flights cancellations than any other airline. The operational strain was enormous. Delta's team scrambled to keep flights moving, but manual processes for check-ins and boardings were no match for the scale of this disruption. These incidents exposed serious vulnerabilities in the airline industry's digital infrastructure and showed how dependent we are on technology for even the most basic functions. Financially, the impact was staggering, hundreds of millions of dollars in losses. And beyond the financial hit, the Department of Transportation launched an investigation into Delta's extended recovery timeline, adding regulatory pressure to an already difficult situation. In short, this wasn't just a technical glitch. It was a full-blown operational meltdown that rippled across the industry. It's a stark reminder of how a single point of failure can cascade into chaos and why resilience and contingency planning are absolutely critical.
The outage began on July 19, 2024, with Delta canceling approximately 7,000 flights over just 5 days due to a faulty CrowdStrike Falcon sensor update. This was an unprecedented disruption, straining thousands of aircraft and crew and causing ripple effects across the entire network. During the first 24 hours, Delta activated their crisis response plan as around 1.3 million passengers were directly affected by delays and cancellations. Many faced misconnections, long waits, and uncertainty about their travel plans. Cross-functional crisis teams were mobilized across major Delta hubs to stabilize passenger processing, dispatch, and flight operations. One of the biggest challenges was that crew scheduling systems became inoperable. Without automated scheduling, it was nearly impossible to coordinate pilots and flight attendants, leading to cascading delays and further cancellations. Days 2 to 3 brought heightened operational disruption. To keep flights moving, manual processes remained in place for check-in, boarding, and baggage handling. Staff had to revert to paper-based methods, which slowed down operations and increased the risk of errors. Delta's recovery was the slowest among major U.S. carriers. While other airlines managed to restore operations more quickly, Delta struggled due to the scale of the outage and the complexity of its systems. Also during this time, customer service teams escalated rebooking and disruption support efforts. Days 4 to 5 is where customer response and external pressure escalated. On top of public apologies, compensation, and reimbursements, customer support operations were scaled up, with Delta handling high volumes of rebooking and other requests amid growing public pressure. In addition, the United States Department of Transportation launched a formal investigation into Delta's extended recovery timeline. After the 5-day mark, legal disputes arose and escalated. Delta sued CrowdStrike, while CrowdStrike put the blame on Delta's own outdated and fragile IT systems. The seat rep here provides an update on the IT outage as of 8 EDT on July 19, 2024, and was subject to change as new details emerged. First, the facts. At this stage, Delta knew the outage was affecting crew scheduling, dispatch, and customer service systems. Preliminary estimates indicated more than 1,200 flights were delayed and approximately 320 were canceled. At the time, these numbers were still being validated and fluctuated as recovery progressed. It's important to emphasize that these were the best figures available at this time. Next, learning. In response, Delta leadership activated crisis protocols. Coordination with the FAA was underway, through regulatory guidance and was evolving at the time. Vendor rollback procedures were initiated, but their effectiveness was still under evaluation. A crisis cell was deployed across operations and IT, and roles within that team adapted as the situation developed. Next steps. System recovery and rollback validation were ongoing and took longer than anticipated. They prepared a phased restoration of the crew scheduling platform, but timeliness remained tentative. Once stability was confirmed, a post-incident review and vendor risk audit was scheduled to be conducted. The next seat rep was scheduled for 10 EDT later in the day, though timelines remain flexible depending on operational developments. In the next section, we'll assess the effectiveness of Delta's communication and outline the next steps we would take to ensure this kind of outage does not happen again.
We will now assess Delta's communication during the CrowdStrike outage, focusing on the CEO's release shown on the left of the slide with references to the CREDS framework. Starting with the key message, the CEO has clearly acknowledged the issue and the cause with non-technical language. However, the message does not address timelines or next steps for customers. There is reassurance that the CEO is focused on safety and operational recovery, providing some comfort to customers that leadership have a plan. The tone of the public apology and clear recognition of the disruption aligns with empathic best practices for crisis. With regards to brevity, the message conveys important items, i.e. status, explanation, and acknowledgement in an easy-to-digest format. We note that the incident was on the 19th of July though, and this update was 2 days later, which was later than competitors, and also did not clarify when further updates would be announced. The message was empathetic and emotionally well drafted, but the lack of timelines and next steps was operationally weak. We'll now look at how Delta's approach could have been improved and how competitors performed. Applying the STOP framework highlights Delta's underperformance against competitors. Noting the article in the Financial Times, several competitors had restored operations within 24 to 48 hours and at a higher cadence, clearer quality updates to customers during this period. The OAG data report highlights significant volume in cancellations of Delta flights compared to competitors over the weekend. Strategically, airlines focused on managing customer expectations, not just fixing systems. Tactically, they issued early holding statements and committed to regular update intervals. Organizationally, they coordinated primarily through a single source for updates, direct with customers with consistent messaging. United Airlines leveraged real-time data to keep all stakeholders up to date with the latest consistent information. From a people perspective, it is understood that competitive staff had appropriate training for frustrated customers and helplines set up, although this is assumed from the complaint numbers for customer service wait time for Delta and the subsequent US DOT investigation. For other airlines, applying STOP narrowed recovery gap, reduced reputational damage, and maintained customer satisfaction. We've included an example statement that could have been shared on the 19th.
This slide compares Delta's crisis response with its peers. United Airlines had a robust failover system and restored 85% of operations within 48 hours. American Airlines maintained consistent multi-channel updates every 4 hours, which helped reassure customers. In contrast, Delta experienced the slowest recovery, lacked consistent messaging, and suffered greater reputational damage. These styles visually emphasize the performance gap and highlight the importance of preparedness and communication. The outage showed us that Delta's IT backbone was fragile and not ready for such a shock. To prevent this from happening again, the first priority is resilience. That means building backup systems, failover systems, so that if one part fails, another can take over immediately. For example, if crew scheduling goes down, a backup platform should keep flights moving. Regular stress tests are also important. These are like fire drills for IT. They help to spot weak points before they cause a real disaster. And because this outage came from a vendor update, Delta must manage vendor risk better. That means stricter testing before updates are rolled out and holding partners accountable for failures. The second pillar is communication. In a crisis, silence or slow updates make things worse. Delta needs a clear crisis communication playbook, a step-by-step guide for what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. Messages should go out across multiple channels: SMS, app notification, emails, and social media. This way, passengers don't have to guess or rely on rumors. Consistency is the key. If one channel says something different from another, trust is lost. The third pillar is customer trust. Passengers want honesty, empathy, and quick solutions. That means giving transparent updates, showing genuine care in the tone of messages, and offering compensation quickly and fairly. When customers feel valued, they are more likely to forgive the disruption and stay loyal to the airline. So, in short, the way to mitigate future crises is to focus on three things: resilience in systems, clear and consistent communication, and protecting customer trust. Together, these three pillars form the foundation of effective crisis preparedness. Thank you.